Hello, welcome back to another edition of the I'm Always Right Sports Podcast. I am your host, as always, the Mouth of Michigan, Rob Mendyka. With me, as always, my co-host, the Merc Zone, Mike Merkel.
I'm here.
He's here, we're alive, we're doing well, hope you're doing the same. Mike, we got a lot of stuff to go over today. I promised you a surprise. I guess not a surprise, but I left everybody hanging last week. Where I was like, there's some things we want to do this week. Let's button up some Lions topics today. We're going to be talking the Lions depth chart, where we see this team. I think there's some misconceptions about this football team going into the upcoming season. Along with that, though, we're also going to talk the Lions schedule. It's officially been released. We already knew who the opponents were going to be, but how it lays out and how that schedule breaks down is extremely important to the season as we go along, so we're going to go through that. We're not going to give you win-loss predictions. We're actually going to wait for the whale man Kyle Budznowski to be on the show with us for us to do Lions predictions. That might be a quick hitter episode because we're going to do the whole league. Mike's got a great topic on that, so when we do that, we'll do that separately. We'll give you guys fair warning about it. And then in the second half of the show, we're just going to talk about some other upcoming games with the NFL schedule that we're looking forward to. There's some big primetime games. There's some big games at the end of the season that may predict our division winners. And later on, we're going to talk the UFC 249 event. Not so much about what happened on the card, but as far as the fan experience goes and how that relates to other sports. And then we're going to end the show with something brand new. We're going to talk about Chris Jericho once again basically claiming to be the best wrestler in the world. He released a tweet earlier today basically saying that he thinks, no bragging necessary. He just thinks that what he's doing right now, he is the best entertainer in the world today in the sport of professional wrestling. So we're going to talk about that as well to end the show. So lots of stuff to do, Mike. Let's just start off right now. Lions depth chart. This is a 3-12-1 football team, last year, number 3 pick. We've addressed some needs, right? Jeff Okudah, probably the new cornerback number 1 going into the season. If not early on, it's going to make the change from Trufant to him. We've got DeAndre Swift, another starting running back. We got a pass rusher. We got a new starting guard in Jonah Jackson. Possibly another one later on in the year in Logan Stenberg. Lots of moving pieces. A lot of New England faces coming here, right? Jamie Collins. We've got Danny Shelton. We've got Duron Harmon now. Some of these pieces. Big V as our new right tackle. Mike, just talk to me about where you think this Lions roster is in comparison to last year.
I think this roster's in a more depth positive spot than it was last year.
Okay.
But I don't know if I necessarily like it more than I did last year.
Okay.
I think some of the spots, I think you could say they improved.
Yeah.
At least depth-wise. I think you can look at spots like the offensive line where I'm like, I don't know. I like Graham Glasgow. They're better, but depth-wise, I think you have 3 or 4 guys that can actually come in and play,
right,
which is more than you did last year.
Right.
I think on the defensive line or your outside linebacker position, because they all, in the 3-4 set, they're all kind of blitzers. I think you have like 5 or 6 guys you can send in rotation there.
Yeah.
But last year, I think outside of 3 or 4 top guys, you didn't really have anyone else to come in there.
Right.
And I think your defensive backs, I would say, either stay the same or upgrade. And I think Duron Harmon is going to be great as a second safety to Tracy Walker,
absolutely,
where I didn't think we had, especially once Diggs left,
we
didn't really have that second safety back there, but now we have another one.
Right.
So I think it got better depth-wise, but I don't know, starting 22, I don't know if that's much better.
Right, and I think you make a good point there. When you look at some of the pieces that they've kind of swapped out, right? Like, obviously, let's just presume Jonah Jackson's going to be the starting guard, right? Next to probably Joe Dahl, barring health. So if we're assuming that for a second, you assume that, okay, there's obviously going to be some drop-off between Graham Glasgow and Jonah Jackson, right? We kind of know that, right? I think the Ragnar-Vaitai swap, I think, if anything, is the same, quite frankly. I don't know necessarily if they're losing a ton in Rick Wagner, but I also don't think that they're gaining a ton with Vaitai.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's never been a full-time starter. I get that, they have the 2-year out after 2 seasons. I just don't think that even if Vaitai is, if he's just average, I think that's what Rick Wagner was. He was average at best, right? And as Green Bay Packers will soon find out, he's just average at best. So I think in the offensive line, I think you're right. I think on paper you go, okay, instead of Graham Glasgow and Wagner, 2 experienced starters being there, now you got 2 guys that are a little more inexperienced, on that side. So I definitely think that on paper, especially starting, but on the defensive side of the ball, I do think that they have gotten, I don't want to say the word is necessarily stronger, but I do think that a couple things factor into it. I think number 1, the big thing that they've been trying to push on us is scheme fit, and I think 2, I think playmaking is something that I think that was missing from this team last year. 7 interceptions, I think that was one of the lowest in the league, if not the lowest. We didn't create a lot of turnovers, right? Deron Harmon back there at safety, I think is going to be tremendous compared to Will Harris, right? And quite frankly, I think Deron Harmon, as far as ball skills, I think maybe better than Diggs. I think Diggs was definitely more confident probably playing the run, you know what I mean, than maybe Harmon is. I think it's going to allow Tracy Walker to be a little more flexible. I think the linebacking core, you let go of Kennard, in comes Jamie Collins, right? I think Jamie Collins is a bigger playmaker than Devin Kennard is. I think he's a little more multiple than Kennard is. I don't think Kennard really was much as far as pass coverage goes. And then in the cornerback position, I think that's the one thing that I think a lot of people are thinking that they may be taking a step back from. Give me your thoughts on where you think they are in the defensive backfield, just cornerback position specifically, because I really like where their defensive backfield is now. Yeah. If the stars kind of align here, which in all teams it kind of needs to, but as far as where you're seeing from last year, from Slay, Rashawn Melvin, Coleman, to now it's Okudah, Desmond Trufant, Coleman, and then whoever your fourth, Warrior, whoever. Yeah,
again, I think it all relies on if Jeff Okudah can come in and play right away, and be a top performing guy.
Right.
Obviously, I think he's going to be able to come in and be a serviceable starter.
Yeah.
But I think you need him to come in and be a guy.
Be a guy.
Be a man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I think if he does it, I think you kind of drop the ball a little bit, because I don't think Desmond Trufant alone on an island is very good anymore. No. Justin Coleman's still good at the nickel, but if he has to move outside, you saw last year that doesn't work very well.
Right.
And I don't know if Amani Uriye is ready yet as being a 5th-round guy. Yeah. You looked at, he's probably going to need 2 or 3 years to be able to be at least have a chance to be a guy, and he's got drafted last year, so I don't think he's had the time yet.
Yes.
So
I'm with you for sure. Yeah.
I think Jeff Okudah is the big if Okudah works, and he can play on somebody's number 2 and basically lock him down, I think you're in a great spot. However, if he's getting beat by Justin Jefferson on the Vikings, or if he's getting beat by Lazard on Green Bay, then I'm then you're in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely, for sure. And I like the fact that, obviously they're banking on Jeff Okudah coming in and starting day one, right? It's going to be him, it's going to be Trufant. Those are the 2 guys. I like, honestly, too, what they did as far as the depth goes. Darryl Roberts was a starter for New York last year, right? For the Jets, right? I like the fact that Awarie is still there. That's another guy I think that they're going to like. Mike Ford has starting experience. I like the fact that we are now looking at a cornerback room who, I think Slay to Okudah, it's hard to give Okudah, be like, oh, he's better than Slay. He's never put it down yet, right? You know what I mean? But I think that, let's just go with the assumption for a second that Okudah's going to be your number 1. Trufant over Melvin is a clear upgrade, in my opinion, right? So, and then with the rest of the depth that they have, with a Darryl Roberts and an Awarie and a Mike Ford, I really like what they have in the secondary as far as depth goes. Where, if a Trufant goes down, okay, maybe an Awarie or somebody's got to step in at one of those spots. I'm not necessarily oh my gosh, we're totally dead in the water, as where I felt like last year when Slay went down. Defensively, statistically, you didn't feel like they really, because they were so bad anyway. Yeah. But you definitely could sense that there was a missing piece in the secondary last year.
Well, a way I look at it usually is I do a point system. Yeah. And if I take Coleman out of it because he's in the nickel,
right?
I would rank them as going Slay 1, Trufant 2, Okudah probably 3, and Melvin 4 from starting corners that we had last year and this year.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, they both equal point value of 5.
Right.
Like Slay having 1 and 4 or 2 and 3.
Right.
So I look at that, I'm I don't think it's that bad, because I think that you have 2 guys now that are both good instead of one great and one okay.
Yeah, I actually really like what they did at safety too. Just real quick, like Tracy Walker, I'm a big fan of this J-Ron Kearse guy coming from Minnesota. He's going to be a big special teams guy, but I think he's going to get a lot of snaps at safety as well. I think that's a guy that they're looking forward to kind of like, oh, maybe, you know, this Jeremiah Dinson, I think he's the guy, he was a unrestricted free agent from Auburn, right? He's an athletic freak. That's another special teamer. But I really like what they did in their secondary. I think they're, like I said, I don't know necessarily on starting potential, like, are they going to be as locked down on one side of the ball when Slay was at his game, on top of his game? Probably not right away, but if Okudah turns out to be the man, I think long term, I think it's a better fit for them. Yeah. Quite frankly.
And even here's the thing with the Okudah pick is I think that even if worst case scenario happens this year and we have a bad season and everyone gets fired and we have to find new people, I think Okudah can fit multiple roles. So I think that whoever comes in is like, okay, at least we have Okudah. I think that was my problem possibly with even picking like a quarterback or a really key positional piece, is that if this season doesn't work, what if the next coach is like, I don't like this quarterback that we have, and we have to go find another one? Like I think Okudah fits just about everything that you want to do. So at least you have one good corner. For a set piece.
Absolutely, for sure. Let's talk D-line here just for a second. Obviously, I think that's the biggest hole still on this team. This team is not complete by any means. This is not a perfect roster, but I think that if you're looking at a specific area of weakness, I think we can both agree the defensive line is probably the one that needs. If they go to sign a guy, right? I would assume that's probably.
I would say defensive tackle.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, if they're going to go sign a guy.
Right. So you have Danny Shelton. They signed Nick Williams from Chicago. They drafted John Pennicini from Utah. There's some other people who can play those spots, right? You got like John Adkins, but you've also got Trey Flowers can play multiple positions. Deshaun Hand can play multiple positions. Austin Bryant, is another guy that you can maybe see fitting a DN/linebacker role as well. Yeah. Talk to me about where you think this D-line is, and I'm assuming there's going to be another signing. I can't imagine they're going to go in with Nick Williams, Danny Shelton, and then a whole bunch of question marks after that at the D-line. Even with, say, Deshaun Hand, say he's 100%, that's great, but I still think they need somebody else too.
I do think they need somebody else. I think they're banking more on their back seven, I guess you could put, instead of their front seven. Instead of the front seven. Yeah, Like, I think linebacker and defensive back is really what they went, because they saw that they got beat up last year, and I think that they noticed that last year they didn't have a pass rush, so they went, we're going to try to get a pass rush, but if it doesn't work, let's just try to bank on having a better secondary than last year, because even if you don't sign another guy, I would say, like, Flowers, the Aquara brothers, and Deshaun Hand, I think that's serviceable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But but is it like, you're not good, don't expect this team then, if this is how it stays, to be able to get like 3 sacks every single game. Like nothing's happening. Like you're not getting 49ers pass rush.
No, absolutely not. No. Like, I will say this though. There's one thing that I think we missed out a little bit too. I read a tweet actually earlier this week. I think it was from Pro Football Focus, Detroit Lions, like their specific one, where they said that they blitzed the least amount, right? But when they did blitz, they had a 51% success rate on their blitzing. So, which is crazy, right? Because you don't think about it in that regard because they did it so little. You're like, so when they did do it, it was somewhat, it worked, you know what I mean?
I think that's what the problem with a lot of fans have, is they're like, it works. Like, you see it against, like, Arizona, when they were blitzing.
Yeah, when they were setting the house, when they were forcing houses, people.
Yeah, it was working. Chargers, it was working. You know, Chiefs, it was working. And then, like, halfway through the season, they were like, we're going to stop blitzing completely, and that's when you're getting shredded all over the place.
Yeah,
so I think that's where fans are, like, annoyed, because I'm like, when you see something working, but then you go against that to try to do something else, and it starts not to work, you're like, why are you not doing the thing that works 51% of the time?
No doubt about it whatsoever. Yeah, so like I said, defensively, I think they're going to be better. They couldn't be much worse, quite frankly, so I don't think that's a bold statement to say by any means of the imagination. But if this defense can be 20th in the league, I think you're going to see a drastic sense of improvement where everyone's going to go, oh man, we can get a 3-and-out every once in a while. You know what I mean? Like, that's really where it is. All right, let's shift focus now from the team to the actual schedule. The Lions schedule dropped, what was it, Thursday?
Thursday night, 8 o'clock.
And, it's a doozy. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's it hit hard. I'm not gonna lie. The first 4 and the last 4 are definitely where your season's gonna be made or broken. Any off the top kind of like observations you had, Mike, from the schedule as a whole before we actually go game by game, just kind of tell everyone what's going on?
I mean, I think it could have been worse. It's kind of
it definitely could have been worse. Yeah, it definitely could have been worse.
That's usually how I look at it. I think you're in this very similar situation as you were last year, where I think your first 4 are tough. But I think if you can get through that, I think you have a really good chance of setting yourself up.
Really
kind of
well.
like how you said.
Really well, yeah, for sure.
I think it really sets it up. I do like playing the Texans on Thanksgiving. I think that'll be a fun game.
Somebody new. It's been like Chicago or Minnesota for like the past 6 years.
Yeah.
It's been ridiculous.
Yeah, I like playing the Texans because I think the Texans you can look at as one of the teams that I think are a winnable game. I think when we go through the schedule, there's 3 or 4 teams that you're like, yeah, they probably won't win that game. So it's good that on Thanksgiving you have a game that's at least you have a 50-50 shot.
Right, for sure. Like I said, we're not going to go win by win here. I'm going to give you guys the rundown just of the schedule if you haven't seen it yet, real fast. But we're not going to go win by win. Like I said, we're going to make that a whole another thing. So obviously they're opening up home against Chicago, big game. You're at Green Bay, at Arizona, home against New Orleans. Then you're at a bye, so they have an early bye week again, which kind of sucks. Then you're at Jacksonville, at Atlanta, home against the Colts, at Minnesota, home against Washington, at Carolina, home against the Texans for Thanksgiving, at Chicago, home against Green Bay, at Tennessee, home against Tampa, and to end the season for the division, home against Minnesota. I can dream, right? But just observations for me. The first 4, right? If they can somehow escape, best case scenario, 3-1, more than likely, if they can go 2-2 in those first 4 games, especially with the first game being against Chicago at home opener, I think that place, if there's allowed to be fans, I think the place is going to be crazy, especially because Chicago is a division rival. If they can go 2-2 going into the bye, I think at Jacksonville, at Atlanta, Colts, Washington, those games, even if, say we lose the Minnesota game at Minnesota, that little stretch there is really where if you can go 3-1 in that stretch and then kind of finish it out and beat the teams you're supposed to, right? I think you can beat Green Bay at home. I think that you can beat the Texans. I think Carolina is a winnable football game, right? Some of these games, I think you can really kind of start to get ahead because that back 4, even against home game, but at Tennessee that's going to be tough. But Tampa and then Minnesota, those 3 games alone are those are tough games to end the season with. You know what I mean? So if you get a little bit of a buffer ahead of time, I think they'll be in good shape.
I find it interesting because usually the schedule makers for the NFL, not doing a conspiracy theory about the season or anything, but usually they put the 2 teams that they think are going to be the competitive teams at the end. Like when you look at the West and the NFC West, it's Seattle Niners again because it's probably going to be Seattle Niners playing for a division game. Or you get Baltimore Steelers, I think it's week 17, because those 2 teams are probably
usually the 2 teams are the top.
So I find it interesting that they have Vikings Lions because I feel like the Vikings
are definitely the favorites
going into the season.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that means that they're predicting maybe the Lions are probably the second.
Right.
If not, because I'm shocked that it's not the Packers-Vikings week 17.
Right. Well,
unless it just didn't match up that way.
Well, because I guess they probably were they're going to start with Chicago and end with Chicago. They're going to bookend it. That'd be kind of crazy, right?
Yeah,
but let's talk about this too real quick. Let's just set, before we go to break here, Mike, let's set some season expectations real fast.
Okay.
Not wins-loss record or anything like that, because like I said, I want to save that for another episode when Kyle's here. Yeah. But this is a 3-12-1 football team, though, right? And I think I've come out on this show before, if I haven't, right? The Lions' offense, if we're breaking this down, what happened last year, averaged 8.4 points a game less when Stafford was off the field compared to when he was on, right? If we break that down, do all the numbers calculations, right? They're about a 500 football team if the scores stay the same in every single game, except for we have 8 points more, right? With Stafford playing instead of Blau or Driscoll or whatever, right? So in my mind, right, I think they're closer to a 500 football team than I think a lot of people think that they are, right? Can we both agree on that? A little bit. No? Yeah.
Well, I thought you were insinuating. Yeah.
No. If we're saying it right, I think they're closer to a 500 football team than they are a 2-win football team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So with that being said, and with way this team is being brought up, obviously this is a must-win year, right? The mandate has been said. They had their players in place. All the locker room guys they don't like, they're gone. They're shipped out elsewhere. You've got your scheme players. You've got everybody that you could possibly want. Your quarterback's going to be healthy. This is your team at this point. Yeah. So, what are your expectations now that you've seen the schedule, how it's going to break down, looking at other teams on paper? What is your expectation? Like, is it? I've seen some people go crazy. Like, my dad was messing with me when I told him the schedule. He's like, "Oh, we're going 13-3, no problem." Like, he's drinking the Kool-Aid 100% all day. He's got an IV drip with it the entire way. You know what I mean? Obviously, I don't think that's it, but I also don't think that 3-13 is the number either. Where are your thoughts as far as where you expect this season to go? Like, are they a playoff contender? Are they in the playoffs now with the 7-team schedule? I mean, the NFC is so deep right now with so many good teams at the very top of the conference. Where you see this Detroit Lions team, at least initially, like, say this is the finished product?
Yeah, I think you're looking about 8 to 9 win football team with a 7 seed horizon you're trying to fight for.
Yeah.
Because I think, and it's not really anything to the detriment of the Lions, I don't think. I think it's just when you go through a little bit, you go like, Bucks and Saints are definitely going to be 10+ win teams.
Saints, you got Dallas and Philly.
You got 49ers, Seahawks.
That's six without even having an NFC North team.
Yeah.
Right there. And then you've got Minnesota, Green Bay, and let's just throw us in there for a minute. That's 3.
And I even throw
Chicago.
I was going to say, I even throw the Cardinals in there. I think they're going to be fighting for that spot. So
absolutely.
I think when you name 9 or 10 teams and only 7 can make it in, at that point I'm like, I think you could be fighting for contention of a 7 seed. Mm-hmm. Will you get it? I think that's going to be tough.
That's tough. And I think some of these games, right, like a at Carolina or home against, I think those kind of games, right, where like those are the super, like I look at certain games on this schedule and I go, they should absolutely win these football games, right? Like at Jacksonville, they should obviously beat Jacksonville, right? At Atlanta, I quite frankly think they're a better team than Atlanta, right? But there's other games, like at Minnesota, that I'm checking that off as a loss pretty much immediately, right? Against at Tennessee, I don't necessarily like that matchup. You know what I mean? What's the against New Orleans? That's going to be a tough day at the office, right? Even at Arizona, that's a tweener. But some of these games in Arizona, home against Green Bay, these games those are games where like those need to swing your way. If the Lions have the same success that the Packers did last year in close game situations, I think you're looking at a 9 to 10 win football team. Yeah. You know what I mean? I really do. That's kind of how I'm looking at this. This way this roster is made, what they want to do. You're banking on health, obviously, right? You can't go in assuming, well, Stafford's going to go down week 4, and then we're just going to say, screw it. And, you know what I mean? That can't happen. But if everything kind of, if this is supposed to be the year where everything's kind of supposed to gel together, this is the time to do it. So it's going to be really interesting for sure. Like I said, once Kyle gets back on the show, once we kind of break this whole quarantine thing, hopefully we'll be able to go through every single game in the NFL schedule.
All 256.
It's all 256. It sounds boring, but trust me, it's a lot more interesting, once you see the final product, I think, than when you actually do it. But all right, after the break, we're going to talk more NFL schedule. We're going to talk about some of the games outside of Detroit that we're looking forward to. Then we're going to talk some UFC/no fans versus fans. What do you like more? And then obviously we're going to talk some Chris Jericho talk, some bragging going on there on the Twitterverse. All that after the break. Stick around.
Hey guys, it's the Mouth of Michigan, Rob Mendyka, and I just want to remind you guys that we are live every single Monday, 7 a.m. on all your favorite streaming services. And if you missed us on the stream, don't worry, we are there. We are going to be on YouTube live every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Make sure to go there, subscribe to the channel, and tell all your friends. We appreciate your support. Now here's part 2 of this week's episode.
And welcome back to part 2 of this week's episode of the I'm Always Right Sports Podcast. Mike, let's just jump right in. Okay. We were talking off air, and we were talking about what we're going to talk about this week. And, you brought up, the NFL schedule, and, I was already thinking talk about the Lions schedule. You're like, well, why don't we talk about other games, too, that we're looking forward to? And I go, there are other games? Because I am so heavily focused on what the Lions do. I could give 2 craps 95% of the time until we hit, like, playoff time. Yeah. Like, what games are going on. Like, I have found that I watch more NFL football during the day if the Lions win compared, like, if the Lions lose, I turn it off and I go do something else because I'm so pissed off the whole rest of the day. But Lions win, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's watch that Cowboys game. Sure. I'm just so happy that they won. I'm not mad today. So I figured that while we have the opportunity and everybody's, filled with hope and sunshine and rainbows about their upcoming seasons, except for Jacksonville because they're going to be terrible, let's might as well talk about some of these other big games that are happening. And I asked you, I said, what other games are there? Like, how do you know that? And you just listed like 8 of them, like off the top of your head, that's been released for 48 hours, and you already know what half the teams are doing. And I'm like, sure, let's go, right? So I don't know half of these games, right, what's coming. So, Mike, give me some of the games maybe that you're looking forward to that fans across not only the state of Michigan, but maybe just, anybody who listens to us. We have fans literally across the world. So, what games should they be looking out for if they're just big football fans in general that maybe don't suffer from the plight of being a Lions fan like we do?
That's facts. First game. Week 3, you got Chiefs at Baltimore, Monday Night Football.
Monday night.
Probably the first real big-time game of the year. Thoughts on that kind of a game?
That's a big one. I think it's a bigger game, though, for the Saints than it is Baltimore. Like, if Baltimore wins, everyone goes, okay. But if the Saints win, I feel like that's a game where they go, oh, okay. The Saints are kind of grabbing a reputation now of being like, oh, you're a really great regular season team, and then the playoffs come and you choke it away, right? That's happened several years now in a row. I think that the Saints really need to stack up some quality wins for people I think you look at that roster and you go, okay, Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, just that alone, you go, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But then what is the next step? What gets them over? Drew Brees is not going to continuously get better. Mm-hmm. He's 40-something. It's not going to happen. So it'll be a big game, I think. I think Baltimore will be the favorite, but...
Yeah. Then we head right to the next week. Week 4, you get Eagles at 49ers, Sunday Night Football.
Ooh.
Thoughts?
Big game for the Eagles. That's a game that Carson Wentz goes and circles on his calendar and goes, that's my day, right? Like, that's a day for me to go shine and go crazy and put up big numbers against a good Niner defense, right? It'll be interesting. I'm very, very interested to see what the 49ers look like this year because of the Super Bowl hangover, the fact that, I don't think Kinlaw for Buckner or whoever they got rid of to the Colts, I don't necessarily know if that's you got to wait to see what Kinlaw is, but on paper you go, man, that's still a pretty good team. They got rid of a couple running backs, but what are they going to look like? Is it going to be different? Is it just going to be paint by number all over again? And will teams be able to stop it? Because clearly they couldn't last year. So what are we going to see out of a good Niners team?
Yeah. Big storyline game. Week 7, you get 49ers at New England. 4:25 game. Big game because Jimmy Garoppolo obviously goes back to New England.
How crazy of a day would that be if Jarrett Stidham beats them out? Because then it's then Belichick just goes and smirks and he goes, I told you.
I think that's why it's a big game. I'm not saying it's a big game for the game itself.
Yeah, right.
The storyline, it's fun.
No idea what New England's going to look like at that
So you go to the next week, week 8, you have a big back-to-back games. So you start with the 49ers Seahawks, part 1. And then you get Cowboys-Eagles for Sunday Night Football. So you get kind of a doubleheader in
That's a big game for the Seattle Niners. I think, depending on who's the home team, I think they probably just split, quite frankly. But the Cowboys one, though, that's the one that if you're a Cowboys fan, you're like, man, at some point this has got to come together, right? Mm-hmm. We're assuming Dak Prescott your quarterback. If not, don't worry, you got the Red Rocket thrown for you.
Don't worry about it.
But at the same time, I really do think that it's the Eagles' division to lose. I know a lot of people like what the Cowboys did in the draft, and I'm one of them. I think, CeeDee Lamb falling to them, they went, oh, I guess we'll just take another weapon and roll with it. But I do think that, quite frankly, I think that the quarterback play, it's not even close. I do think that the running game can be comparable at times. Mm-hmm. And I think that weapon for weapon, I think that if healthy, Philadelphia matches up pretty well. And I don't think that the secondary of either team is necessarily strong. I think Philly got better by adding Slay. And I don't think the Cowboys really... the Cowboys defense, it has a lot of quote-unquote big names on it, but it hasn't come together yet. I was a big proponent of this defense last year where I went, you look at it and you go, wow, on every level you look good, but there's no Byron Jones anymore. You didn't add a guy to, like, make it better. You know what I mean? They didn't trade for Slay. You know, your linebacking core, Sean Lee, how long is he going to be there? Jalen Smith, you're going to have is there. Defensive line, DeMarcus Lawrence, and then a whole bunch of nothing. It's going to be tough, I think, for Dallas. I think Dallas fans have a renewed hope because Jason Garrett's not there. I don't necessarily know if Jason Garrett being there and Mike McCarthy being the replacement necessarily helps that. I think you've got two very antiquated offenses just being replaced by one another.
It's true. Thursday Night Football, Week 9, Packers at 49ers.
Man, you got a lot of Niners games that you're really looking forward to this year, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Anytime you're a Niners fan, that's funny. Yeah, I think the Niners just blow that out. I think on paper that looks great because it's like, oh, they're going to come back and blah, 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 and then Aaron Rodgers is going to get sacked 4 times, and everyone just goes, oh, all right, they're still not ready to go.
Week 12, maybe the last time you'll see these two quarterbacks duke it out, unless they make the Super Bowl. Chiefs at Buccaneers.
Oh boy, yeah, a new Tom Brady team. Gronk is back. It is going to be very weird to see Tampa be like, oh wow, Tampa's just going ahead and buzzsawing teams. You know what I mean? So it's gonna let's hope they stay healthy. I actually want to see this team fully healthy and let's just see what their potential is. I'm very interested to see what Brady looks like. Quite frankly, we talked about this a little bit off air, where it's like, is Brady gonna be like Favre was at the end, where like that last year in Minnesota he had, where it was like he was like balls to the wall, or is it gonna slowly but surely start to fade away like Peyton did the last couple of years, where a limp noodle throwing back there?
It will. I'm interested. That's all I'm going to say about that, I guess.
We'll see after the first 4 weeks. It's either going to be, wow, he's got 28 touchdown passes already, or, okay, they really need to shorten up the offense.
Week 14, Saints at Eagles.
It's a big game.
I feel like
that's a potential NFC Championship type of matchup right there. Once again, though, if I'm a Saints fan, as much success as you're having in the regular season, you're getting to the point where it's like, are we ever going to get back there? You know what I mean? It's very similar to the Green Bay thing, where you just, like, I felt like for a while there, Green Bay was always winning the North, but they never got out of the first round. Yeah. It was just kind of like, all right, you know, they're there and they're good because Aaron Rodgers is carrying them, but now what? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's kind of what's happening a little bit with the Saints now, where it's like, Drew Brees is like, hey, anybody else want to make a play? No? Cool, thanks. You know?
Yep, and those are my 8 games I'm excited for.
Is there a team last year, real quick before we move on, that you think that last year was like, everything kind of clicked, that this year you're going to be like, don't be surprised to see this team kind of fall off a bit? I'm a big fan of the phrase regression to the mean. Is there a team for you that was like, okay, and now this year that everyone still expects big things from, but maybe looking at what they've done off-season wise and where their roster is, that maybe they don't have as much as people think that they do?
If I had to find one team, I'd actually probably say the Niners.
Okay.
I think will regress back. I think when you lose a Super Bowl, usually the next year you don't have nearly as good of a year. Mm-hmm. I would say the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs have a pretty easy schedule in the beginning outside of Baltimore, and they won the Super Bowl, so they have the confidence going into next year. Yeah. I think the 49ers had the 10-point lead, lose it, and you saw with Carolina and Atlanta where the next years are just kind of not really there, and especially with the rising
of the Rams even.
Yeah, and the Rams, you can even say, too. Yeah. And with the rise of, like, the Cardinals and the Seahawks are still there, I think that they're going to have a tough time getting through. Yeah, and getting back to
that. For sure. Absolutely. That's a great team. Is there a team in the AFC, maybe? I mean, take New England out of it because they lost.
Yeah, New England lost a lot. I would say, regress back to the mean, I guess the Ravens for me.
Mm-hmm. They were just so good.
I don't think anyone can be that good 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. Just pure running the ball. If Lamar can learn to throw better, I would say, I don't know, there's a team that regresses that far back to just an average team. Mm-hmm. But I think just being able to run the ball, I'm like, as long as you learn how, teams have over a year now, especially with this quarantine, like they're just sitting at home. So I bet you the Steelers are just sitting there going, okay, every single day, how do we stop this dude? Like, what are the ways we put guys around it? So for sure. I'm sure people will find out how to stop the run. Yeah. So I'm going to say Ravens.
Right. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I think those two teams are like, they kind of came out of nowhere a little bit, you know? Yeah. It was like, oh, okay, Lamar is going to take this league over, and then at the same time the Niners should go, yeah, we're just going to bully everybody and just beat you down with defense and run the ball 55 times a game. And it's very interesting to see that those two teams it is a passing league, right? So at some point you're going to have to throw the football, and so with two quarterbacks, Garoppolo and Lamar, for different reasons, I don't think a lot of people are like, yeah, like if with game on the line, one throw, he's my guy. I want to make that throw yet, So it's going to be very interesting for sure. Okay, let's talk now a little bit of the UFC. Just had a new event, 249, right?
249.
249, right? Big success by all accounts. No fans though in attendance, right? Following the WWE, the wrestling trend. First off, how did you think the show went? You actually watched the show, so I did not. But how do you think the show went, especially with no fans? Did it affect your viewing experience at all?
I didn't think so. I've always thought that UFC was the one event where if you don't have fans, I don't think it impacts a ton. Like, I do think having the live crowd there, having a live crowd anywhere,
it makes it look better for sure.
Yeah, but I think because what UFC did was kind of what the WWE's kind of doing, where they or at least NXT does, where they darken the seats. And they have
it's like a spotlight.
So you just have the sole spotlight going around, and then when they're fighting, you hear their corners yelling more. Like you hear everything. Like, they're like hit the 1-2, slide more to the right or whatever. Right. So in that atmosphere, you're like, I actually kind of like that because I'm like I get to hear what they're saying on each side, and then like it still feels like there are people there like cheering them on because their own corners are cheering them on. So I think it was very good, and the fights are actually quite good, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
For those
I read nothing but pretty positive reviews all the way through. Do you think that, I think for all the crap that wrestling is getting for doing this whole no crowd thing, right, they've been going strong, right? We say what you want about the product for a second, but they've been consistently putting on, out there new stuff, right? Now with the UFC doing it was a pretty high level of success. Do you anticipate, is this kind of like a foundation for what maybe say the NBA or Major League Baseball is going to do? Or do you think that the NBA is like, they're trying to drag out coming back as long as possible so that they can maybe have fans back in attendance? Even though I don't think a ton of fans will go, just having the option to go, because I think basketball, compared to every other sport outside of maybe football, is the one sport where it's like, it really is, let's take wrestling out of it for a second, because no matter what the crowd does, they already have the decision. But like basketball and football, I think, are the two where it's like, man, that crowd gets going, and there's a definite feel, there's a vibe going, that the momentum is real, where I don't think, like baseball, it's quiet 85-90% of the time. Your thoughts on maybe the NBA's roadmap to getting back to playing again? I
mean, I don't think they need fans. I think the fans help, but for the planning that they want to do, there's a lot of squeaking. I like the squeak though. It's fundamental basketball, Rob. The squeaking. I don't think they need it really at all, because I just look at it and I'm like, especially the plan that they don't want to like have home games. They want to just go to a neutral site and play. I'm like, I don't think you need fans at a neutral site. Really. I think if you would have,
it's not March Madness.
It's not like if you had like the Lakers home game, obviously that's going to impact, because you're traveling to LA, but with no crowd, it's basically just an empty arena game. But if everyone goes to the same place, it's all of an even playing field, and I actually like a more even playing field more than home court advantages to a certain extent.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you think that, we've heard like guys like LeBron, I always bring up LeBron because he's the biggest star in the game, where he's like, I'm not playing if there's no fans. Do you think he honestly would not play if there's no fans?
No, I think he would play if there were no fans. Yeah. Like, I think if they were like, listen, we're going to start the playoffs today, tomorrow, or next week, or whatever, I think LeBron's getting ready and he's going to go play. Regardless of fans or not. I don't think that's
interesting. He's like, I'm not done. Well, can you imagine though? Like he's like, nah.
Yeah, here's the thing: if LeBron doesn't play, there's gonna be no playoffs.
Yeah,
because they're not gonna do a whole playoffs without LeBron being in there.
Well, the Clippers are like, we'll take the ring. We'll very gladly take the championship. We're the Clippers, so we'll take anything we can grab.
Yeah.
For sure, though, we've heard some news that they're targeting June to kind of like where they're going to start those discussions of how they're going to kind of get back to playing a little bit, right? You were obviously seeing around the world, here in the state of Michigan, stuff's starting to get loosened up a little bit, and I think at some point it's just going to go, all right, screw it, open the door, and it's going to be a floodgate, right? I just think that's kind of what's going to wind up happening, especially as the weather, hopefully, we say that it was snowing yesterday, but as it kind of starts to turn, right, get better weather outside, I think we're going to see that, and I think that's where sports are going to come in. But if there is a sport you had to pick, is basketball for you the one sport where you go, that is the one where the crowd would play the most as far as an outcome of a game necessarily, like... Or do you think, is it football where like football would hurt the most, or baseball, whatever sport is it, hockey even, because...
It's tough. I think football does it the whole case of the game, but I think basketball in the moments that the crowd is important, I think it's more impactful in general, because like if you go play in like a Seattle or a Kansas City,
it's loud.
and like you can't hear, and like even Michigan. When they played one of their bowl games a couple years ago, we're talking about like when you go play in like a Penn State, like they practice with like kids like banging stuff in their ears and having to do audibles because you just can't hear anything. Where I think in the NBA, the transitions from like the Warriors, I think the Warriors hit it perfectly too, where you hit like 3 3-pointers in a row and the place erupts. There's like no way you're coming back.
No.
From that
you're just like, well, because it's just piling on, right? Yeah.
I think those small moments that pile on just really kill everything from a team. Right. But I think in football, the whole game is kind of like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think there's really breaks where the crowd's not active and helping it.
Do you think that what do you think? What sport, whether it's wrestling, football, basketball, is the one that needs the crowd the most to make it entertaining to watch? For you as a viewer, not like the performers, whatever, right? But like, or the athletes. It's just what do you think that is there a certain league or whatever where you're like, yeah, we definitely need crowds for this to like.
I would say
100%.
Well, there's one thing. I think the commentary matters a lot because I think fans can overtake bad commentary.
Yes.
But if you have great commentary, I don't need fans.
Okay.
So like for basketball, right? I like Van Gundy. When he commentates NBA finals.
Oh my gosh, he's fantastic.
Like if he's commentating all these games, I don't need a crowd.
Right.
Because I'm invested.
Or like Joe Klatt covering a college football game.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I don't need a crowd if I have Joe Klatt and Gus Johnson calling a football game.
Right.
I don't need a crowd because they're already
now
good
Joe
enough.
Buck and Troy Aikman are calling a game. I'm gonna need something else.
Exactly. So I think it depends on who you're gonna give me. Yeah. Because I think wrestling in a whole just needs the crowd more.
Yeah. Just because you take the crowd goes on the story and the ride with
everybody,
right?
And the announcer, some announcer. I don't even think like you can name the best announcer you can think of. I don't think that announcer can help.
No, they take the crowd into effect and they play up to that moment. Yeah. Like the crowd is reacting and then the announcers then play up that moment as well at the same time.
Yeah. Where I think if you give me, like you said, Joe Klatt and Gus Johnson, I'm like I can watch any sporting event ever.
Right.
And I'm perfectly fine to say there was no crowd there because they'll just.
Yeah. I honestly would tend to agree with you on that. I think the announcing is definitely. I think just a side note. I think WWE's announcing has actually been pretty good lately.
Yeah, I think it's done a really nice job. I think that's what's helping. I think this last Dynamite, with like Jim Ross coming back, it just made the whole show feel better.
Yes,
because I'm like,
because now, it's not Jericho, kind of off the cuff in it with Shivani. Like you just kind of felt like, okay, now Jim Ross is back. Like you kind of, we feel like we're kind of like struggling to get back to where we were just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
It's definitely gonna make you be like, oh man, fans are back. Like everything's back to normal. You're really gonna appreciate it, I think, for a little while. And then you're gonna get used to it, and then it's gonna be gone again, and it's all over again. But all right, let's talk wrestling here for a second here to end the show. Chris Jericho coming out with a big tweet saying that nothing about it, no shots taken, but I definitely think that I am the best wrestler in the world, right? Best sports entertainer, whatever. I don't know the exact. I think you say wrestler.
I think it's wrestler.
Yeah, wrestler in the world. Not trying to toot my own horn kind of thing, but he's like, I just think that what I'm doing is the best. So my question for you, Mr. Merczone, is he accurate?
I think he's accurate, but I don't think. Well, I guess I would say he's not accurate then. But I think he's like up there, but I don't know if I would say he's the best. I think he's the best in certain aspects. I think, like, talking, I'm like, I can listen to him talk, do a promo, like a 20-minute promo any day of the week, and I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be awesome, or whatever. But I think as a wrestler, with all the parts integrated, I don't think he's the best currently. Yeah. You can make the argument, like, all time, like, his entire career and everything. Sure, sure, that's fine. Yeah. But, like, at this very moment, I'm like, I don't think he is the best right now.
You think he's the most entertaining? Let's take the just straight, take that, let's change just a little bit. Like most entertaining, all packages, like his matches, his promos, the shtick, the whole 9 yards, right? Like everything that he does when Jericho does it, like, are you like, yep, I'm not going to get better than that. This complete package, like I think I'm going to agree with you. I would argue I would rather watch a Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins on Money in the Bank in a true 25-minute match than a Chris Jericho John Moxley match. Like I just would. Like I mean, Jericho's almost 50, so like let's put that asterisk too in there too. But like from just a pure match perspective, I'm guessing Seth versus Drew will be better, but. Will they draw me into that story enough to make me want to watch it more than the Jericho Moxley match? I don't know, and that's the difference, right? So the whole package, Le Champion, everything he touches seems like right now Jericho touches it turns to gold.
Yeah.
So
see, I think it's all on personal preference because I just don't prefer. I prefer like Cody's matches more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like Cody's matches, as in like storytelling.
Yeah.
His only weakness, I think Jericho beats him so hard on the promos and the mic work.
Yeah.
But like his storytelling in the ring and just like his facial expressions that he can bring and his match quality, I think Cody's better than Jericho right now. So at least Cody. If not like I prefer like I prefer like an Adam Cole because I think Adam Cole brings the mic work and he brings the in-ring work over Jericho right now. Yeah, I'm not saying Cole's
you're speaking my language, buddy.
I'm not saying Cole's like the best wrestler in the world by any means, but I think if I'm like who would I want? Cole in a feud against anybody or Jericho in a feud against anybody, I'd probably take Cole right now. Yeah. And that means I would think he's better. So
yeah. I will say just as a side note, I thought the Dream match didn't deliver as well as it should have. I don't think they gave him enough time, quite frankly. Like, did you watch NXT this week?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I did. That main event, like they did like a small match, like right before it, like a 10-second thing, and I was like, what is happening? And we only had like 12 minutes. I'm like, 12 minutes for an NXT title match? I'm like, you guys you're killing me here. Like, even if I already knew what was going to happen, like, come on, you're hurting me. But I agree with you though. I think Jericho right now is on fire, right? In a lot of respects, right? Like everything he does is just really hitting on all cylinders, right? Whether it's a promo, whether it's a new saying, it's a new catchphrase, it's whatever, right? I think AEW though is doing a really nice job of really like emphasizing that. Like he puts a cone on his head during a match, and now all of a sudden he's got a T-shirt with the cone on his head. You know what I mean? And I think they're taking what Jericho did organically in WCW and putting money behind it, and it just extrapolating that. It goes, okay, Jericho says he's Paragon of Virtue. Okay, now there's a shirt that says he's Paragon of Virtue. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I take an old WCW phrase I used to use, and you can say it now, and people go, oh my gosh, that was the greatest thing ever. I think he's getting a little bit of the rub from AEW still being I would say, a better product than NXT is week to week. I think there are certain shows that NXT is definitely better. I thought last week's show, from a card perspective, NXT had a better card than AEW did. Now, execution-wise, maybe not so much, but like from a card, like main event-wise, do I want to watch a tag match that has no implications, or do I want to watch an NXT title match? I'm going to watch the NXT title match. That's hence why I watched NXT Live. Yeah. Because of that, right? But then you look at the execution, you go, okay, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just something interesting to talk about. And name right now who's your best wrestler in the world.
Oh.
You still gonna go Ospreay?
Yeah.
You still gonna go Ospreay? I had a feeling. I figured I'd just pass though real fast, like right now.
I think just like I know. If
obviously, he hasn't wrestled in 2 months, but
are you adding like mic work and everything into?
Yeah, like who's your who do you think is who do you think right now is just killing it on all when you say wrestler, you can say okay, in ring. If I just said in ring guy,
in ring guy is Ospreay, right?
But
far away.
Is he just your overall no matter what he's doing, you're gonna he's your guy? I guess who's your favies?
No, he would be my guy. If he's in a match against almost anybody, I'll watch. Right. But I think honestly, I prefer a Cody or even Ciampa. I like everything he does in the last 2 months. Yeah. I've been super invested in with the Cole feud and then Gargano, and now he's probably gonna first cross and whatever. Oh, man, all that stuff. All that stuff has just been bold. Yeah. And I think he's great in the mic and in ring. So
Killian
probably both.
Killian Cross is gonna be a massive star. Yeah. just throwing it out there. You heard it here first. If you haven't heard it yet, he's gonna be. But yeah, right. Like for me, like I'm still hard on the Cole train. Like 100% of the way. I mean, like his NXT title run has been good. I've enjoyed it. You know, I think this pandemic has hurt it a little bit. Just
I say because ever since the pandemic started, I'm like I think it's gotten a little bland.
Yeah, I don't think they have anything. You know, because there's no takeover, so they're not building to anything right now. They're just kind of swimming a little bit.
That's why.
You know, so it's tough. But other than that, though, he's definitely been on my top. I think Drew's been doing a really nice job too.
Yeah,
he's becoming champion. Hopefully that match with Seth doesn't I hope they just give him 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and just let him go. But all right, that's gonna be it for this week's show. Next week, obviously, we're gonna talk the fallout from Money in the Bank. That show is gonna be tonight. We may talk a little more Last Dance possibly because that documentary series is kind of wrapping up here, just to kind of get some overall thoughts on that, along with some other stuff. Obviously, as every week goes, new sports topics come out, and we'll be the first ones to talk about them. So on behalf of the Whaleman, the Merc Zone, I'm the Mouth of Michigan, and we will see you guys, as always, next time.